Welcome, everybody. I am super pumped here to have David on the podcast, REI Uncovered here. Very exciting topic. We're talking about finance in a way. And this stuff has changed my life. This is why I'm really excited to bring him on. As I talked about throughout all of my content, the way to be successful as an investor, you have to have what I call the CEO mindset. Part of that is understanding how to use your finances well. So I'm not going to spoil everything. We can get right into it. But David, we're welcome to have you on the podcast here. Thanks for joining, man.
Oh, thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me on. I just love spreading this message.
Let's do it, man. So can you give people who are listening, you may have no idea who you are, a little bit about yourself and why you wrote this book here that we're gonna talk about.
Awesome. So my name's David Richter, and I got into real estate investing. I feel like this is an AA meeting, but I got into it by Rich Dad Poor Dad. So it really is like a real estate investor's AA meeting. But So that was the first book I read in college that really opened my mind. I had a really good friend, obviously really good because sent me down this path. And that got me to start doing my own deals, did some fix and flips, bought some rentals. But then I started working with a real estate investing company, which was huge experience because they were doing about 5 to 7 deals a month when I first came on board. And we scaled that company to about 25 or 30 deals a month. And, I saw everything: wholesale, turnkey, fix and flip, the, lease options, rentals, so seller finance, everything that you could think of in real estate we were doing. So it was a huge experience there. And I got to see that company grow. Then I also sat in every seat. So from acquisitions, dispositions, selling the properties, the project management, property management, finances, transaction coordination, like anything, basically utility man. Go in there, fix a problem, get out, let's get you in another seat. So that was how I've been a part of, I think, over 851 deals now. I calculated that recently. And so I've just been a part of a lot of different deals, done a lot of my own, and, bought rentals on the side, had a nice little portfolio. So that's kind of how I learned the business. And then from there, about 5 years into there, I saw that I was in the finance seat and saw that we were doing 25, 30 deals a month. And as much as was coming in, as much was going out. I saw we were having 6-7 figure months, and we were almost, that in expenses as well too. So that to me was eye-opening, that just because you look successful doesn't mean that you're bringing home the net, the bottom line profit. So that was just eye-opening, just as learning. And it was super eye-opening sitting in all those seats and then sitting in the finance seat and saying wow, okay, I understand how marketing, from getting the deal to closing it to, selling it, renting it, whatever. Right. And seeing all that work, and then on a kind of a grander scale too. But then also at that same time, at the end of the 5 years, we moved across the country. We could at this time. So I sold a lot of the houses on my portfolio, and we were just able to moved across the country to live with family. And I started working with another investor. And the first thing I asked him was I got to see your books. I got to see if your numbers tell a good story or a bad story or no story at all, because there's nothing there for me to dig into. And so I did. I dove in there to his finances right away, and there wasn't a picture, was no clear picture. So the first thing we did was get that clear picture in place. And what it showed us after we got his finances in order was that he was super under leveraged on a lot of his rental portfolio. And he was able then to go refinance houses and right away put several $100,000 in his pocket. He didn't have a huge portfolio. So, it was just a few properties, but it still netted him a lot of cash in his bank account. And after that, and after having that control of seeing where his money was going, he said, "This has transformed my life." And that to me was a huge light bulb moment of how the finances can help you, not just you want to go out there, you want to get the deals, but then the finances are all about keeping the money and what do you want to do? What is your business there to serve? It's there to serve you and why you started the business. Right. And that's where it was just very eye-opening to me. So that's kind of my real estate journey, how I got the taste for the finance side and what I saw the power of being able to know your numbers, the financial numbers, being able to use that, leverage that to make decisions, giving control back to the owner. So that's kind of what started me on this path to profit first. Because then I told him hey, I think I want to help more people. What do you think about me starting a business around this? And he's like, I'd hate to lose you, but I think that's very needed. So then I called another mentor of mine and he said, I love that idea, helping investors and helping owners with the financial side, but more than just a bookkeeper and more than just CPA, but like actually strategy and making sure they are a savvy business owner when it comes to the finances. And he said, that other mentor said, have you read Profit First? And I said, no, I haven't read this. This was several years ago now. And he said, read it right away. So I did. I downloaded the book, the audiobook, took 10 pages of notes that evening and said, this is it. This is the framework that I want to implement with the community, like with the real estate investing community. Like I got to get them in control of that cash, the cash flow management in their business and give them control back of that. So then I did. We started implementing it with real estate investors. And about 6-8 months later, I went to Mike Michalowicz, the author of the original Profit First, and said, man, this has been working inside of these businesses. Like lives are being transformed, businesses turned around. Like, I love this. Would I be able to write Profit First for real estate investing for the real estate investing world? And he said, yeah, let's do it. I love the real estate investing community. And I think that it's got the uniqueness and the nuances to be able to do that. So yeah, here we are 14 months later, and here's the book on the shelf behind me. And Tim's got an advanced copy right now, and it officially comes out December 7th. So if you're listening to this before or after, you can pre-order or order. But that's what got it all kicked off, why I wrote the book. It's like, here's the love letter of why I love real estate. Been in it about 10 years now. I started in 2012. So I'm like, I need to help real estate investors not to lose the money that they're already making.
Dude, there's so much to unpack here. And I love that you're so excited about your book. That makes me excited. I'm excited about it. I love it. But I can tell it's like a passion for you. Like you literally want to help people, right? Yes. It's not just like a money-making scheme by any means.
No, not at all. I mean, do I want to help people with our business? Yes, of course. That's where we see it. But that's why I wrote the book. Like, not everyone can work with me, but everyone can get this mindset and can do these simple steps. And like, even if you just do one step, like inside of here, like just getting into the habit of being profitable. So yeah, it's like that. Oh yeah, you've definitely hit a nerve here. This is definitely my passion project.
That's awesome, man. You will definitely dive into it, but I want to dive a little bit deeper into your journey, just for me and the listeners to understand. So did you go to like college for finance? Because I know a lot of people that like do a lot of deals, but none of them decide to, open up a kind of CFO firm. So why did you get into finance in the first place?
No, I went to college as my bachelor's is in secondary education. So teaching. So as you can tell, I like teaching. I like displaying these ideas and having them come alive in other people. So that's where my heart lies. But no, my school of hard knocks was sitting down with the CPA for a year and telling him and asking him a ton of questions. Where does this transaction go? Where does this show up on the balance sheet or the profit and loss or the financial statements here? Like, how does this tie into it? Like, and asking a bunch of questions, really digging in and saying, you know what, I think there's a key here, like that every business owner needs, that they at least need the high level overview. They need to be savvy enough to say, I know where my numbers are. So that was like the eye-opening for me, was seeing how the deals, the sales, the rentals, how it all came together to form this story behind the scenes of their finances. So that to me was the exciting part of it. And why did I start the CFO business being an entrepreneur? Because I'm a total entrepreneur. There's not a CPA or like bookkeeping bone in my body, but I saw a huge need, and I like finances. I've always been like, I like that side. So it's like, this is something that I can bring to the community where I can pour into. And this is what I feel like my true genius is being able to bring good people together, because I run a fractional CFO firm and pair up CFOs with small business owners. So right now I'm even fulfilling that in that way to help those individuals get, what they need from their finances. And yeah, that's one of the most asked questions I get. Like, you've done all these deals. Like, why did you start a CFO business? Yeah. Because they're really, and especially in the investing world, there's not many of these specifically for real estate investors, but there's not a ton of fractional CFO firms out there. There's some, but not that are focused on helping truly the owner understand the numbers and how the power it gives them back and the true financial freedom it gives them. So that's why I was like, I got to do this. There's no one really helping the real estate investing industry. Like, let me dive in and give them some clarity around their finances.
Yeah, I think that's really, really insightful. And I think I've had somewhat of a similar journey. Like I'm an investor as well.
Yeah.
And I started a PPC agency, which is not as unique as what you're doing by any means, but it was for the same reason, because I saw a certain need that I could fulfill. I liked doing it and I was good at it. And so I decided to step more away from the investing side, which was okay at it, but I'm diving more into what I love to do. Sounds like you did the same thing.
Oh yeah.
And we're helping the same people in a way. So yeah, man, I think that's awesome. And just for everyone who doesn't know, we're talking about this like mysterious profit first thing.
Right.
It has changed my business, and I will share a little bit about my story, but I'm curious, even just for my own curiosity here, how do you like the business model of what you're doing compared to like being an investor or a wholesaler or a flipper?
I honestly compare what I'm doing now to rentals. So if you have a rental business, same concept. We get paid on a monthly retainer. That's how we do it in the fractional CFO world. And it's a percentage. So that's what we do. So it's a percentage of revenue. So we put a high level individual on your team, part-time, basically. That's what fractional means. It's part-time, meaning it's a fraction of the time and the cost. So it's like, you'll be meeting with them once a week or once every other week. So it's not an overload. It's not like now you're just overdrive talking about finances 30 to 31 days of the month, every single day. And it's also, a CFO is about 150, 250, that's a typical CFO for a typical business. And that we're a fraction of that price on a monthly and annual basis. So that's really, how we get on, help people and get in there. And that's what, I would compare it more to the rental business than a fix and flip or something, or wholesaling. It's kind of like the long-term building that foundation. And what are we doing to, add to our base, and same thing with rentals. So it's very comparable to that.
Gotcha. I hired at the beginning of my journey of my opening up my own agency, I hired a fractional CFO.
Awesome.
It was very, very helpful. And they told me I was charging not enough money. And it took me a year to finally listen to them. But so there's obviously a ton of value in that. For anyone who's listening, like I've shared a little bit about my story before, but like, here's an anecdote which shows you how important this stuff is. So back in 2018 was I did my, at the time, biggest deal ever. It was I just a wholesale. That's all I do. It was a $40,000 wholesale deal. And it was like crazy. And that month that I closed a $40,000 wholesale deal, I closed another $35,000 in deals. So I had an $80,000 month, which for me, I was netting 60 grand a year, like on average, something like that.
Nice.
And I had an $80,000 month. And at the end of the year, my profit was roughly the same as it was any other year.
Wow.
And I look back in 2019, not a great year. For a few different reasons, I ended up moving cross country and I kind of stepped away from the business. But I look back at that time and I'm like, man, I had the best month I ever had. And at the end of the year, I felt like I had nothing to show for it. And it really kind of woke me up and like, you really need to understand your finances. And it doesn't matter how much money you make or how big of a deal you do or good months you have. If you don't understand your numbers, like you're always going to be struggling. And for me, that was my biggest pain point in my life, was like financial anxiety. And I didn't know what to do. And then I also read, I think it was 2019, the Profit First book. I live my life by that book currently, which is why I'm excited to have you on here. My personal life, I have, 6, 7 bank accounts personally. My business account, I have 5, I think, business accounts open, and I no longer, finances are not an anxiety for me anymore. They used to be my biggest anxiety. Now it's not an anxiety. So I'm 100% sold on this. Everyone I tell who gets into this business, I tell them read Profit First. And I'm so excited that now there's one specifically for our industry. So, okay, everyone's asking, what is Profit First? Can you just explain a little bit about what it is?
Yeah, here we go. So buckle up. So there's 2 components. There's the mindset, and then there's the practical application. Because the mindset is, we've all heard the formula, or like have internalized this probably from other places, that sales minus expenses equals profit. I make a sale, then I pay everyone else and their mother, and then what's left over is what I have to keep, hopefully at the end of the year, month, day, whatever. But then Profit First formula is sales minus profit equals expenses, meaning I make a sale, I pay myself first, take my profit first, then what do I have left over is what for the business to run on the day-to-day. Right. That is what we hear, though. We hear that all the time from Robert Kiyosaki, from The Richest Man in Babylon, like all these different books that we read as entrepreneurs and investors that we probably have been a part of, or these masterminds, like make sure you're paying yourself, or we've heard that, but we haven't internalized it because we don't do anything with that information. We don't put anything practical in place. That's why I love Profit First and why I wanted to get this in the hands of real estate investors, because it's not just what we keep hearing from other books. There's another step. What is the practical? How do I make profit a habit inside of my business? How do I make that over and over and over again? And so what we do is, if you've heard of the envelope system, like grandma's envelopes, or, like Dave Ramsey's made that very popular, you set up specific bank accounts that are for your benefit. So you already have an OPEX account, for paying your bills and whatnot if you're a business owner. I'm going to suggest you open 4 other ones. An income account, which that income account does nothing but hold the money, the deposits that you make, until you push them out to these other accounts. So it's giving you control now. When the money's coming in, then you push it out and say, I'm going to direct it to these specific accounts. So putting control back in your hands, number one. Then number 2, these other accounts that you should open up, I call, and Tim's probably got a sneak preview of this already in the book, I call it the golden trio. I like this analogy because your life and your business is an epic saga. And just like the epic sagas like Star Wars and Harry Potter, like those always have 3 main heroes pushing the story forward for good. They are always making sure that, good wins in the end. And you need specific bank accounts to make sure you're winning. To make sure you're winning the epic saga of your business that you are creating right now. So what are those 3 accounts? Number 1, profit account. This is an account for the blood, sweat, tears, the toil, the risk of opening the business. Number 2, the owner's comp account. That's an account to make sure you are paying yourself for any work you do inside the business. Then number 3, the owner's income tax account. That is any tax that you pay at the end of the year, like personally, or if you pay quarterly from the business, whatever it is, that's not property taxes that I'm talking about. That's like your income tax. So opening up those accounts puts you back in the driver's seat, and that gives you power to say, I'm going to make sure we're focusing on my profit, the paying myself, and paying the taxes, and that we can save for that throughout the year. Those are the main 4 accounts that I tell people. Plus, in the Profit First book, I say there's another account too you should probably open up, and it's called the OPM account, other people's money. So that way you are separating out, like if you have private lenders, bank money, like for projects, if you're doing things where you're taking money from other people for specific projects, then I would separate that money out and don't commingle it with the active income from your business and the profit and the operational expenses. So those are the base accounts. And that's how, then it comes full circle, because once you get in that habit, income comes into the income account, you push it out to the others, you start living out sales minus profit equals expenses. Pay yourself now becomes real. Now you're seeing, okay, this system is working. Just like Tim has said, his life has transformed and his business doesn't have that anxiety. It's because now he's building in profitability on every single deal. His company, he's not stressed, and he's living out the mindset. Now the mindset is more real to Tim because he's seeing it in action. The biggest pushback I get from this is like 4, 5, 6 bank accounts. Are you kidding me? Like, that's nuts. First of all, defeatist mentality of like, really? These are accounts for you, the owner. Like, you don't want to set these up to make sure you are taken care of. Okay. Like, first of all, that's blowing my mind. Second of all, it's like, what can you do? One thing from this podcast, I say this in the book too. If you can just open one account, call it profit, and transfer 1% of your income in there. The whole point of the system is not the bank accounts. The whole point of the system is to make profit a habit. It's that psychological effect of having a totally separate account from your operational expenses, or like the bad guys, or whatever in your business, and making it sure you are funding the profitability of your company, cash profitability, not some made up number that some CPA tells you at the end of the year that you made, but actual cash in an account that you can use for your profit. So there you go, Tim. There's an overview of Profit First, the mindset and the practical applications.
Dude, I loved it. And for me, like, Profit First really it's about psychology. Like, it's designed around people's psychology. And one thing I really love in your book is that because you're an investor, you actually talk a lot about the nuances of investor psychology, our flaws and our pros. And I think Looking back, reflecting on my own life, like why didn't I implement something like this earlier? Part of it is ego, I think. And like being able to admit like, hey, I need a behavior change with my finances, is can to be a gut check, right? To some extent. Can you talk a little bit about like maybe some of the mental struggles or emotional struggles that people might have trying to implement a system like this?
Oh man, this is you got to pick up the book too. I've got some stories in there about people that we've worked with where we literally in the very introduction, I don't know if you read the introduction, Tim, but there was the guy that he hung up on me. The very first call I had with him after we got his finances in order, he hung up because he was so embarrassed about where his numbers were. So it's like there is an emotional journey because this is your finances. This is something most people get so embarrassed, like investors, business owners, like everyone gets embarrassed about not being savvy about the finances. And they have this anxiety when they've never been taught. We don't, and you don't want to be taught. Like you don't want to go to school to be a CPA or an accountant or a bookkeeper. Like that's how most people learn the language of money, is going that route. That's why with this system, right? Exactly. Boring as heck. So it's like, this is why I like this system, because it helps people from where they are, the entrepreneur. But yeah, I tell a lot of stories in the book of entrepreneurs, investors, just like you, that are saying like, I have no idea where my finances are, but it's okay. Like I just have this at the end of the year. And, that's when I give this off to my, to my bookkeeper or CPA, and they do everything for me. And it's all about, okay, but what could you have captured? Or like, what are you missing out on? Or if you're not profitable, like if you're losing money, then what is that? Not having a system like this is you're already adding stress when you could have a system in place to make sure you're running lean, but you're also very profitable as well too. So I've had, there's been people like, there's different things too as well. Like what are the different, biggest hurdles? One of them is opening up those bank accounts, where I tell about Joey, and he didn't want to open up a bunch of these bank accounts at the beginning. Now he texted me just a few weeks ago that like, hey, I have 10 accounts open now. He's like, I would never go back to just one account. I have this clarity. I have the control over my finances. Like, and a lot of people feel bad inside, like, oh, like I'm embarrassed. I don't want to open up about my finances, or this is going to take too much work. Honestly,
painful.
Tim, right? Exactly. Painful upfront. But it's like, no, all you have to do is set up these accounts and then start transferring percentages in there. Do these funds transfers on your phone, like automate it as much as you can. Get that into a habit of every time a deal closes, every time you get rent coming in, transferring that money and getting in that habit, because this is what we're talking about. If you've heard here, I'm not talking about you going and knowing the financial statements, or you going and knowing, like what your ratios are, inside your business, the financial ratios that people talk about. It's like, we're not talking about that. We're literally talking about cash coming in, cash going out, and bank accounts. So it's really simple. I want to keep this as simple as possible. But yeah, a lot of people come to us super embarrassed or super depressed or feeling out of control, anxious, like you said. And most owners don't lose sleep because they're not profitable. They lose sleep because they don't have control. They don't have control over their money. They don't have control of where it's going. That is where that's the most power you can have in your business. And to get true financial freedom is by gaining back that control that you have lost from going from deal maker to business owner. So that's where you lose some of that, and you got to gain a little bit by gaining it from this financial aspect.
Dude, it's so true. And it's almost tough to hear because it's so honest, but it's so true. And it's like it's easy to say that, but like I feel it. Like I've had some tough years, and a lot of it goes back to, man, I feel so out of control. Like, I have this deal, it may or may not close, deals fall apart all the time, and the money is up and down. And I still feel the anxiety of it. It was a really hard time in my life, and I can attribute it to finances. One thing you mentioned in the book was that the key to growth is through reserves. And I thought that was really cool. And the nuances of investors is we hear all the time, like, oh man, I reinvest everything back into my business. Like,
right.
I'm growth. Like, I'm gonna take all my money. I'm going to do 10 times more deals next quarter. And you're like, well, no, the key to growth is reserves. And when you hear someone's reinvesting all their money back into the business, you feel a type of way about it. Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, yeah, let's be real here. That when people say they want to reinvest, that's usually cover for I have no idea what my finances are, and I'm just going to spend every dollar hoping I make a lot more money back. That's where most people are coming from. And I tell a story about someone in the book where that's where they kind of told me, and I'm like, okay, are you really reinvesting? And for him, he was secure. So that was good. But most people come to us and they're like, nope, it's just they're running around like a chicken with their head cut off. And they use that reinvesting just to be like, oh, yeah, we're going to 10X this. Let's do this. And I say, okay, have you taken a step back? Like, what does 10X mean to you? Like, do you want to grow and scale? And if you do you want to pour fuel in a plane that's going up and taking off, or a plane that's going down? Like, do you want to just go into the ground faster? So that's where, number one, if you want to reinvest, I'm all for reinvesting. Like, you should reinvest back into your business, but there should be intentionality behind it. And that's where I say in the book, you grow through reserves, because there's different mindsets on that too. The reserves, like, especially as a real estate investor, that you're going to be using other people's money. You're going to be using other people's monies, and those banks, those private lenders, hard money lenders, no matter what, want to see reserves in your account. So if you are starting to build profitability, and even if they're in separate bank accounts, it's not like you have to show them all your different bank accounts and the setup. You just have to say, okay, I have $100,000 in my accounts. Like, that's what I have cash on hand right now. So you're building those reserves. You could build specific reserves for yourself too. That's the other thing I touch on in the book. Investors don't realize reserves, you can capitalize on opportunities when they come up. So many of us reinvest back into the business, and then we have to go after that next deal. We have to make that sale. And as a salesperson, you're all, like in getting those deals, you are putting yourself into the, just like a seller that has, a bunch of motivation. You're a motivated seller now.
Buying bad deals.
Right? Exactly. Now instead you're a motivated buyer. You have to buy everything. And it's like the psychological effect of, you know what? I have money in this account. Oh, this property didn't close when it was supposed to. It gives you that cushion not to have to live in the rat race. I talk about the real estate rat race in there. And like, if you go from a W-2 job to this, you're probably giving yourself a bigger hamster wheel and more hours and more time and sweat and blood and tears. And it's like, okay, but the point is to get off the rat race. And the point is to actually grow the business to where you want to and grow it profitably. You're not Snapchat or Facebook or, like Instagram, like these places that get venture capital. And then, then they see a profit years down the road and it could be billions of dollars. No, you're feeding your family today. So you need to make sure that if you're reinvesting, that you're not reinvesting your family's money, and like that you can live that month and you can actually do what you need to do. So yeah, you grow through reserves. I think it's great peace of mind for your team too. I talk about that. Like if you're building a team, and especially if you have finance people or people that a leadership team that you're starting to build, they're going to know if you are stressed about the finances, or if like you're reinvesting everything and like, shoot, we got to get this next deal. You at that point, you are making decisions out of fear and not from your purpose. So you have to give yourself that buffer. So that way you're giving yourself enough room to be able to make those decisions that make sense. So peace of mind for yourself, peace of mind for your company, for the people inside. And it helps you actually get private money or bank institutional financing and like cheap money or whatever you're going after. So I hit that home really hard because I want, whether the next downturn, whether it's a real estate downturn or a personal downturn, because like people say, oh, when's the next market crash? Well, when's your next crash coming? Like what's going to happen in your life that turns your world upside down and has nothing to do with the real estate market? Like, are you prepared for those times? Exactly. Like a COVID comes up and the state of Pennsylvania completely shuts down real estate. It's like, you don't know when those times are coming. So do you have a buffer, some margin built in to give yourself that breathing room?
So what do you think about, I see all the time on social media, people are like, it looks like everybody's a millionaire. Everyone's closing big deals all the time. You have a really unique perspective because you go into the backs of books of these types of investors, I assume, and people who are probably doing pretty well. How good of a reflection do you think social media is of like people who are posting big checks? Do you think these people are making tons of money? Do you think a lot of them potentially need a lot of help like this? What are your thoughts on how things are portrayed in our industry?
Well, I will say a lot of those people are making a lot of money. They are making a lot of money. It's the keeping it. They are usually reinvesting everything back into marketing, hoping that whatever they throw out there, that it sticks to the wall and that it works. And I will say, I have seen a renewed surgence with this book, with Profit, because Profit First has been very popular. So now it's like for the real estate investing world, knowing that you actually have bottom line profit, not just bottom line profit that some report tells you, but like cash in your bank account.
Right.
So I will say that, yes, on the start of this journey, I was a lot more, let's just say I was a lot more jaded because, at the start, because I just saw people posting all the time. Then being in it for several years now on the back end, there are a lot of good people out there making good money, but they just need guidance of like, they are just like you. They're just doing maybe more deals at this point, but they're not savvy when it comes to finances. They didn't get degrees in this. They're out there busting their hump just like you, but they need someone to guide them and direct them. So that's where I've kind of softened my standpoint just a little bit of like, hey, if you come to us or want to buy a book like this, that shows me that you're already in a different category, like that you want that help, that you are that business owner, and that you're not going to let fear or embarrassment or that stop you anymore to implement a system that could help you for the rest of your life. So at first I was probably a little bit more jaded than I am now. So, but a lot of people do get up, beat their chest, but then I have seen a lot of people say, you know what? I need help. And usually it's quiet behind the scenes. Then when they go post those checks, then I'm like, yes, do that, because you're not only helping other people. I know that you're strong financially behind the scenes as well too, because we work with a lot of the influencers in the real estate investing space now. And we work with, big real estate investors, but we work with some people that are literally selling a property a quarter too. Like, they're selling good sized deals, but so we're seeing the gamut of everywhere. And it's the people that come to us that say, I'm tired of posting these checks and not keeping any money from these checks. So
yeah, I think a good rule of thumb we should all have is like, when you're posting things about your success online, post your net income. Maybe that's
right.
Post your net.
That would be great. Yeah. I would love that. Or post that profitability percentage. What did you sock away this month?
Margins. Yeah, exactly. Right? So walking through an example here is a real life example. I just do wholesaling. I'm a strictly wholesaling business. I just closed a deal last week. It was a $40,000 virtual deal. Okay. Normally, like what I used to do, take the money, I just throw it in my bank account, and that's it. I have one account, it sits there. I use it to pay myself, and I use it for marketing. I don't really know how much my marketing should be, or how much should I pay myself with it? How much should I invest with it? I don't know. So let's say I read the book, I follow your system. What would that look like on now? I close a $40,000 check. What does the process look like?
So it goes into your income account, because that's where all deposits go. Now you get to direct the flow of that money. It's not just going to sit in that account. You're going to transfer the money into the profit, owner's comp, owner's tax, and OPEX by percentage. So there are targets that I give in the book, depending on the size of your business, to shoot for percentages for those accounts. And that depends on the size of your business, your team, like all of that.
Okay. So let's take it to real life. Yeah. So my business, let's say it does $150,000 a year. I am a one-man show. What would you say, like roughly?
The target, if you're doing wholesaling, would be 5% to profitability, 50% to yourself, so owner's comp, then 15% to the tax, and 30% to the OPEX account. So that would be the targets, though, to shoot for. But if this is a real life scenario, I would have done one step before and said, but when we first start working together, for the last 12 months, how much did you make and how much did you pay yourself? Because if like last year, let's just say you did the same, 150,000, and you paid yourself, let's just say 50,000 of that, so that way, that's 1/3. So you've paid yourself 33%, 33.333%. So you would say 150 is what I paid myself. 33% is, or 150 was what I made. The 50,000 or 33% is what I pay myself. So I had about 67% left over for the OPEX. That's where I would start. If you were just starting this system, I would say, what did I pay myself? Making sure that if I'm on track to do the same, that I have the percentages to be able to pay myself what I need. And if that's not enough, then adjust that percentage first. You might not be able to just dive in and go directly to the targets. That's why they're targets. You are trying to build this financial muscle of working towards where a profitable and healthy business is spread out over those accounts, because most people, before they start Profit First, never had a profit account, never had a tax account. So those are usually a big fat zero of what they've been transferring before. So get where you are currently what are you making currently, and then make sure that you adjust those percentages. And then after each quarter, you're getting closer to what those targets are of like the 5%, 50, 15, and 30. So
you've worked with tons of, that's awesome. And 100% agree. You've worked with other wholesalers, I'm assuming.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yep.
What do you
Currently.
think that percentage should be? So let's say, okay, I pay myself 50%. So I pay myself 20 grand of that. And then, 15% to tax. So that's 7,500. And then the rest goes into OpEx. So for me, if I'm thinking about, okay, I want to do a direct mail campaign, or I want to invest it into online ads, you have to stay within the confines of that OpEx distribution you made, right? So if it's, what percentage would you say was 30% again? I'm
30% to OpEx. Yeah.
That's okay. So 30%. So if I made 40 grand, I'm taking 12 grand, 30% into OpEx. So now I have 12 grand to spend in that account. And that is what I need to. And then the problem in my head is, what can I use with this 12 grand to make me more money? Right. Is that the way of looking at it versus like, let me spend 30 grand on marketing or 20. No.
Right.
Yeah.
It's intentionality. It's being intentional with the money. And if you're like, well, I don't need 20 grand or whatever, we're talking about, what do you need over the course of the year? And what if properties don't close, or like, what if it takes you 3 months, like building in that buffer for yourself. But then, yes, if you do a percentage like that and you have 12 grand from that one deal, then yes, what do I now I have 12 grand to spend on marketing, or do I need a new CRM? Do I need to start getting more organized and just following up with the leads I already have? I have 1,000 leads. Like, I just need to be more organized. Like, then it gives you the opportunity to say, what is my highest and best return on this money that I'm doing now, to make sure I get deals back in and keep the pipeline full.
It goes back to the business model. And like you said, when you first get started, you're like, okay, I'm running a wholesaling business now. It's not just a hobby. I've done multiple deals. What should the business model be? And what that means is, what do the percentages need to be for each function in order for it to be a successful business? And you're saying, what I've seen, 30% going back to marketing, 50% paying yourself at this, volume that we're talking about, like low six figures, is what a profitable business should be. So when you're starting a wholesaling business, or just maybe getting off the ground, you need to say, hey, if you want to run a profitable business, you should do so by reinvesting 30% back in operations. And if you can't do that, then that is a business model problem that you're having.
Right.
And don't try to skirt around that by paying yourself too much or too little. Am I understanding that correctly?
Exactly. That's where exactly. If you are, it's giving you a big red flag of like, oh shoot, my expenses are too high, or am I really analyzing if these marketing channels are working? Am I just hoping that with all these different things that I'm doing, that I get at least one deal out of it? Or am I being smart and intentional about doing it? Because like you said, could be a business model problem at that point of like, well, we're not running lean enough, or we're not doing the right marketing, and I need to hone in on what I'm really good at.
It helps you answer those questions. How much do I put in reserves? How much do I spend? Everyone's pie in the sky. No, these will help you be intentional. And notice he's not saying you need to start paying yourself a lot more or a lot little upfront. He's saying, let's get clear about what you're currently doing and create a system to control it, so that you feel in control. And then from there, we'll adjust. Right.
Yep. Correct.
So one thing I want to show you, and we'll wrap it up here in a few minutes. I know you probably got to run. I know we're on a podcast here, but I'm going to shoot on my blog. I want to share this is my spreadsheet that I use. Can you see it? See it here?
I can see it. Yep.
This is what I use basically every couple of weeks. And I go through here, and like I said, I have income accounts. So I'll plug one into income. This is literally what it looks like. And then I have a percentage, that I have set. This is kind of a sample one here, but I take percentages based on what exactly he said. I did the research of what I'm making. And then I just go through, I plug the top number in, and it calculates the percentages for me. And I just go to transfer, and I spend half an hour every 2 weeks transferring the money into tax, transferring the money to, profit, transferring it to safety reserves, things like that. The way I have it set up, I have a bank account set up just for profit, and I transfer I think it's like 7%. And the only thing I have in that bank account is the 7% profit. Like, I call it fun money for me. I call that freedom account. And when I go out to eat, when I want to do fun things, if I go like travel, or just things that are luxuries for me that I don't need to be doing, I will use that one account only. So it keeps me confined of like, how much money should I be spending? Can I buy this $500 thing, or do I need to like cut back this month? And I know exactly what it should be, because I have the system set up. And I know if I made half as much money that month, then I'll know, hey, I need to tone it back because the system shows me I can literally see what's in my bank account. I have no money left. I can't be spending it.
Right.
Yeah. So, we can sum it up here. Do you have any final thoughts, things that we didn't cover that you wanted to talk about? I could talk about this for 3 hours. I know you don't have enough time for that, but other things that you want to talk about here?
No, the last thing I want to say is what I've already told you. From this thing, make profit a habit. Open up one bank account, call it profit, and start transferring 1%. If you don't get anything else from this podcast, at least get into the habit. That's where I can't work with everyone. So that's why I wrote the book, Profit First for Real Estate Investing. So I want to make sure you at least get that mindset inside of you. Get into the position that Tim's in now, not anxious about the finances, and getting from where he was anxious to now not having to worry about it. Did you hear what he said? He spends like 30 minutes every 2 weeks transferring the money. Like that is what I was going to say. This is a high dollar per hour task that he does, seeing where his money's going and putting him in control, putting him in the driver's seat of his finances. So that's my last thoughts right here.
Dude, I appreciate it. I'm excited. I want to get the word out too. He has a Facebook group as well, Profit First for Real Estate Investors. A lot of good stuff in there. Yep. I pop in there once in a while too. So thanks for having me on. Check out his book. Comes out December 7th. Is that right?
December 7th, officially.
December 7th. Yep. Get it. Got it right here. I've read the whole thing front to back. I can tell you it's a worth a read. 100%. Check it out, man. I appreciate you coming on, and good luck. And I'm excited to see where your business grows, man.
Well, thank you so much, Tim.
Thanks, David. See ya.